Hey guys, tonight we enter the most bittersweet dinner invitation in history, one where the air tastes like olives and tension, where every bite of bread feels like you're chewing destiny itself. And you're sitting right there, wedged between people you're not even sure you trust, trying to figure out what this dinner is really about. But first, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I read every one, even the ones posted at 3 a.m. by people wrapped in blankets with a cat on their chest. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking on the old stone streets of Jerusalem, and your feet are already begging for a break. The city is packed. No, not just crowded, it's pulsing, like the city has had way too much coffee and forgot how to sit still. You squeeze past a fig vendor who's arguing with a sheep, or maybe just yelling at one. The sheep looks unfazed and is chewing on the edge of her basket. Somewhere down the alley, the sound of a shofar blasts out, followed by children laughing, sandals slapping, and the smell, oh man, the smell of something flatbreadish mixed with lamb fat and chaos. It's the eve of Passover. If you thought that just meant some singing and a nice family meal, oh buddy, you're in for a surprise. For you and everyone else here, it's more like a spiritual pressure cooker. People are praising God one moment and muttering about Rome the next. Tensions are high, paranoia's got a front row seat, and in the middle of it all, Jesus. He came into the city yesterday on a donkey. Yeah, not a stallion, not a camel, a donkey. And what did the people do? They went absolutely nuts, laying down palm branches, cheering like it was a royal parade. And you stood at the edge, half in awe, half cringing for him. But something about that moment, it still lingers in your chest. This time, it's different. You think to yourself, he's really gonna do something. But what? That part is still frustratingly blank.
Hey, you? Yeah, you help me with this water jar.
You turn to see Peter waving at you, sweating, dodging a kid carrying a loaf twice his size. You grab the other handle, and the two of you lug the jar together, grumbling the whole way like co-workers on overtime. Think he's gonna say anything new tonight? You whisper. Honestly? Peter sighs. If he starts another parable about seeds, I might plant myself in the courtyard. You laugh. You don't mean to, but it bubbles out like steam escaping under the lid of the moment. Still, deep inside, you feel something uneasy. Tonight isn't about parables. It's something else. You notice strangers weaving through the crowd. Not locals. Their robes are crisp. Their eyes too alert. The kind of people who watch more than they blink. And here's a random historical fun fact to float in your brain. Historians estimate that during Passover, Jerusalem's population ballooned 3 to 5 times its normal size. So if it feels like a concert just let out in every street, that's because it kind of did. Roman soldiers are everywhere. Long spears, sharp eyes, bad moods. They don't like crowds. They really don't like religious ones. There's still a raging debate among scholars about this, by the way. Did Jesus know he was walking straight into a trap? Some say he was orchestrating the whole thing like a divine chess match. Others say maybe he just wanted to be faithful to the end. You're not sure which theory holds up, but you do know this. Tonight is no ordinary night. You pass the temple courtyard, buzzing like a beehive, and spot some Pharisees standing rigid by the pillars. Their robes are flawless, but their expressions, ice cold. You'd think they were allergic to joy. You overhear one of them muttering something about arrest and blasphemy. Your stomach tightens. Nah, probably just gossip, you tell yourself. I mean, the guy literally talks about love and forgiveness every day. But then again, Just a few days ago, you watched him flip a table. No, not metaphorically, literally. In the temple, coins everywhere, doves flying, people yelling, and Jesus standing like the calm center of a theological hurricane. Is he a gentle teacher or a revolutionary in disguise? You're not sure anymore. And frankly, that makes your palms sweat. Finally, you spot the group, Jesus' crew, tucked into a corner near a low stone wall. They're whispering, looking around like they've read too many spy novels. You catch bits and pieces. The upper room, the man with the jar, pretend it's casual. You don't understand all of it. But what you do understand is this. This dinner was planned meticulously, quietly, and suddenly the weight of it hits you. This isn't just a meal. This is a setup, a farewell, a stage, and everyone's already taken their places. You sit down on a flat cushion, heart thudding just a little too loud. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet thought whispers itself into your mind. Maybe this really is the last night. You wake up the next morning still hearing the buzz from the night before, except it's not a dream, and you're already walking through the narrow alleys again. The streets aren't as crowded now. Most people are inside preparing for Passover, but you're on a different mission. Jesus gives you a strange task. He tells you and another disciple, go into the city. You'll see a man carrying a jar of water. Follow him. He'll take you to the place where we'll eat. You blink at him. A man carrying water. That's it? That's the plan? Back then, that wasn't exactly common. Fetching water was usually a woman's job, so spotting a man doing it is like playing Where's Waldo with a twist. Still, you nod and head out, scanning the crowd for your very specific clue. Man with water. Man with water. You mutter under your breath like a low-budget spy. After about 20 minutes of suspicious side eyes and what might have been several innocent people wondering why you're staring at them, you finally spot him. A man alone, carrying a jar. No cart, no donkey, just walking like it's the most normal thing in the world. You and your companion glance at each other, then casually tail him. Casually, meaning you try not to look like stalkers, but probably fail. He walks through side streets and eventually enters a tall house made of pale limestone. You knock. A servant answers. You give the secret line. The teacher says, "Where is my guest room?" And immediately the man nods, like he's been expecting this his whole life. He leads you upstairs, and wow, the room is stunning. Spacious, clean, soft rugs on the floor, cushions neatly arranged. A long low table sits in the center, already waiting like it knows something's coming. This is it, you whisper. You and your companion begin preparing the meal, and honestly, it's way more work than you expected. First, there's the lamb to be arranged, roasted whole, bones intact, because that's how the law says it should be. Then the bitter herbs, then the flatbread, then the wine, multiple cups, because this meal isn't just about feeding the stomach. It's a whole experience, a timeline of the Exodus told through flavors and pauses. You realize something as you set the plates. This dinner is a story, and tonight, you're part of it. Still, there's a nervous rhythm in your chest. You can't quite place it, like the tick of a clock about to ring. You're kneeling by the wine jars when John walks in, tossing you a handful of dates. "In case you're hungry," he says. "Thanks," you say, popping one into your mouth. It's sweet, sticky, comforting, a small reminder that for a few more minutes, everything still feels okay. "Did you notice," he adds, "Jesus has been extra quiet today?" You nod. You did notice. Usually he makes jokes, he lightens the mood, but today he's elsewhere. Maybe he's just tired, you say, even though, deep down, you know it's more than that. The table's finally set. You double-check every bowl, every cup. The sun is beginning to set outside, and the sky glows pink and orange over the city rooftops. Everything is ready. And now, it's just a matter of waiting. As you sit down on the edge of a cushion, you glance at the place where Jesus will sit. The center, obviously, the host's position. And for a flicker of a second, you wonder, does he know what will happen tonight? Do you? Here's something strange. Historians have long debated whether Jesus rented this space in secret to avoid arrest, or because he simply wanted one last calm moment with his closest friends. Some say both. You're not sure where the truth falls, but either way, it makes your stomach twist. You wipe your hands on your tunic and take a deep breath. Tonight, it begins. The sun dips lower now, casting long gold streaks across the floor. You hear the footsteps first, soft sandals padding on stone, then laughter, nervous laughter, the kind people use when they're trying to pretend everything is normal. The others are arriving. Peter is first, of course. He always walks like he's got somewhere important to be, even if it's just dinner. He claps your shoulder with a grin, but his eyes flick briefly to Jesus' empty seat. "Everything's ready?" he asks. "As ready as it'll ever be," you say. Then come James and John, still mid-argument about something. James insists the lamb should have been salted differently. John swears he read it that way in the scrolls. They shut up the moment they see the table. One by one, they filter in. Nathaniel, who always sits on the edge, like he's unsure if he belongs. Simon the Zealot, still twitchy, even in candlelight. Thomas, who's already frowning like someone told him dessert was cancelled. And then there's Judas. He walks in like everyone else, but there's something off. His steps are measured. His eyes dart too much. He avoids meeting Jesus' gaze. You wonder, does he already know what he's going to do? Everyone settles in, scooting up to the table, adjusting cushions, trying not to spill anything. And yet, the tension sits heavier than the bread. It's thick, like the warm air before a storm. You can feel it in your fingertips, in your throat, like a question no one dares ask. Jesus hasn't said much yet. He's just been watching all of you. And then he stands up. You think, finally, he's going to start. But instead, he walks away from the table, kneels down, and begins untying his robe. You freeze. He's going to wash our feet. You're not sure what's more shocking, that he's doing it or that no one stops him. Let me be clear. Foot washing in this time, it's servant stuff. Low-rank, dusty, sweaty, toe between the toes kind of stuff. Not something your rabbi, your teacher, your miracle-working, parable-telling, storm-calming rabbi should be doing. But there he is, kneeling like a servant, wrapping a towel around his waist. He pours water into a basin. The splash echoes louder than it should. Everyone goes still. Even the lamp flames seem to pause. He starts with Bartholomew, lifts one foot gently, washes, dries, moves to the next. You feel like you're watching something sacred. No, not just sacred, something upside down. Peter can't take it. Of course he can't. He pulls his feet back like Jesus just reached for his wallet. "Lord," Peter says, "are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus looks up at him, not annoyed, just calm. "You don't understand now," he says, "but later you will." Peter shakes his head. "No, you'll never wash my feet." And Jesus replies, not angry, just steady, "If I don't wash you, you have no part with me." Silence. Then Peter, bless him, does what Peter always does. He overcorrects. "In that case, not just my feet, but my hands, and my head too." Jesus almost smiles. "Peter, you're already clean. Just your feet are fine. You have to bite your lip. not to laugh. A little, but mostly you're just stunned because the master is kneeling, washing, drying, and not one person, not even Judas, gets skipped. Here's your trivia for the night. Some scholars believe this moment, more than any miracle, is the most radical thing Jesus ever did. He didn't just preach humility, he embodied it, with water, with silence, with sore knees. It's beautiful, and it's awkward, because now it's your turn. Jesus kneels in front of you, takes your foot, and you realize you forgot to wash it earlier.
Yep.
Great. You mutter, sorry, but he just smiles and gently pours the water. His hands are firm but kind. He moves like someone who's done this 1,000 times, though you know he hasn't. You want to say something, anything, but your throat has locked itself shut. He dries your feet with the towel, then moves on, and you're left sitting there staring at your now clean toes, wondering how everything got so upside down. When he finishes, he stands, slowly, his robe still damp at the hem. He looks around the table and finally speaks. Do you understand what I've done for you? No one answers. He continues, I am your teacher, your Lord, and yet I've washed your feet. You should also wash each other's feet. You glance around. Yeah, that's not going to go over well. But you can't argue with him. Because somehow his hands still smell like olive oil and dust, and they've never looked more powerful. The room is quiet now, like everyone's holding their breath and doesn't remember how to let it go. Jesus has sat back down. The towel is gone, but the mood he left behind still wrapped around all of you, like a second robe. You try to focus on the food. Really, you do. There's roasted lamb, perfectly done. The herbs are bitter as advertised, and the flatbread crackles just right, but nothing tastes like it should, because something else is being served here, something you can't chew or swallow. Jesus breaks a piece of bread and passes it to his left. Take this, he says. Eat it. It's my body. You pause, mid-bite. Wait, what? You glance around to see if anyone else heard that the way you did. Body. What kind of metaphor are we in now? But he's not done. He lifts the cup. Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, poured out for many. You freeze, pine halfway to your lips, eyes locked on his face. He says it so calmly, like he's offering orange juice at breakfast, but every word feels like a prophecy, wrapped in a goodbye card. It's not the first time he's said strange things, sure, but tonight the strangeness feels heavier, like it's not just what he's saying, but when he's saying it. Here's a historical nugget for you to chew on. This moment is the origin of communion, the Eucharist, the sacred meal reenacted for centuries by millions. And it all started here, with a loaf, a cup, and a tension so thick it could be carved with a dinner knife. Some scholars argue this was Jesus' way of saying, remember me, not just in what I said, but in what I tasted like. Others say it was a metaphor for unity, sacrifice, new beginnings. Still others just shrug and say theologians are still trying to figure it out. You lean back on your cushion, cup still in hand, and wonder, how do you eat bread that tastes like farewell? Then, just when the mood couldn't get any more fragile, Jesus drops a bombshell. One of you will betray me. Silence. Real, actual silence. The kind that makes the firewood crackle way too loud. You look up and see everyone doing the same thing you are, scanning the room. No one says a word at first. Then finally, Peter leans in toward John and mutters something. John, being closest to Jesus, nudges over and asks, Lord, who is it? Jesus looks down at the bread, dips it in the herbs, then hands it to Judas, and your breath just stops. No way. No way. You think of every time Judas handed out money for the poor, every sarcastic joke he made at Roman taxes, every time he helped carry supplies or stayed back to manage the donations. And now, this? He takes the bread like nothing happened, chews, swallows. Jesus leans in and says something too soft for you to hear. And then Judas gets up, just like that. No excuses, no explanation. He just leaves. The door shuts behind him. The candlelight flickers from the draft. No one follows. You sit there trying to process what just happened, but it's like your brain has been unplugged. Was it him? Is this real? And what does it mean? You hear someone say, maybe he went to buy more food. Someone else adds, or give money to the poor. But their voices sound far away, like echoes bouncing down a hallway you don't want to enter. All you can think about is the way Jesus looked at him, like he knew, and still fed him. Here's a weird fact for you. In ancient Jewish culture, to share a meal with someone, especially dipping bread in the same bowl, was a sign of friendship, of deep trust, which means, even in betrayal, Jesus gave Judas the gesture of intimacy. Let that sit with you for a second. Because it's the kind of love that hurts to look at too long. Jesus clears his throat. The room shifts back into motion. He raises his eyes and says something you didn't expect. Now the Son of Man is glorified. Wait, glorified? This doesn't feel like glory. This feels like heartbreak in slow motion. But maybe, for him, they're the same. You don't understand. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But you pour yourself another cup anyway, because the night's not over. Not even close. You've never been so full and so uneasy at the same time. Your stomach says festival, but your chest says funeral. You try to sit straighter, breathe deeper, act like everything's fine. The bread's been passed, the wine's been poured, and Judas, well, he's gone now. The door shut a while ago, and somehow that sound still echoes in your ears. But the tension hasn't left with him. It's still here, sitting across from you, curled in the corner like smoke from an unextinguished lamp. And then, just as you're considering another sip of wine to calm your nerves, Jesus speaks again. He looks around the table and says the one sentence guaranteed to send a chill down everyone's spine. You will all fall away. You drop your cup. Thankfully, it lands on a cushion and not your foot. All four. You glance at Peter, whose jaw is already halfway to the floor. John looks like he forgot how to blink. Even Thomas, who's always skeptical about everything, looks blindsided. Jesus doesn't shout. He doesn't scold. He just says it like someone reading the weather. There will be wind. There will be clouds. You're all going to scatter. Then he adds, as if it helps, but after I rise, I'll go ahead of you into Galilee. Wait, after you rise. Did he just say he's going to die and come back like that's something on the weekend to-do list? You're still stuck on that when Peter slams his fist on the table. Even if everyone else falls away, Peter says, I will never. Bold. Predictable. So Peter. But Jesus turns to him slowly, eyes calm like water, and says something that makes your skin tighten. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Boom. Right there. You can almost hear Peter's heart drop to the floor like a stone. No way, he says, voice shaking. Even if I have to die with you, I won't deny you. The rest of the group starts nodding, murmuring agreement. Same. Me neither. Us too. Everyone's jumping in like a panic chorus. But you're quiet. Because deep down, you know, something's cracking. Here's a fun side note. If fun is allowed right now, roosters weren't alarm clocks back then. They were everywhere, but the rooster crows was also a known time reference, usually between 3 a.m. and dawn. So when Jesus says that to Peter, he's not being poetic. He's giving a timeline. By the time the sun peaks over the hills, something in Peter will have broken. You glance at him now, his fists clenched, eyes staring Jesus down, like he's trying to will the future into something else. But you've seen Peter before. He talks big. He feels big. But when the moment comes, you're not sure. And it's not just him. It's all of you. Jesus reaches for the final cup. You all drink again, this time slower, heavier. He lifts his head and starts singing. Yes, singing. Not a pop song or something from the charts, obviously. It's one of the Psalms, probably one of the traditional ones, sung after the Passover meal. Psalm 115 to 118, if you're into trivia. And his voice, it's not flashy, not theatrical, but there's something in it. Something steady, warm, a little sad, like a song sung by someone who knows they won't finish the chorus next year. You find yourself singing too, and for a brief moment, the room feels like what it was supposed to be. A meal, a moment, a memory. Then the song ends, and Jesus rises. Let's go, he says. You blink. Now, someone asks. It's late, but he's already at the door. No one questions him, because you all know by now, when Jesus says, let's go, you go. You grab your cloak, adjust your sandals, and follow him out into the night. The city is quieter now. The fires in the windows have dimmed, and the street feels like it's holding its breath. Here's what's weird. As you walk behind him, heart pounding, legs aching, mouth still tasting of herbs and honey, you realize this wasn't a goodbye dinner. It was a prelude. The curtains just lifted, and Act 1, whatever it is, starts now. The street is hushed now, like the city itself has gone to bed early. You follow behind Jesus, your sandals scuffing softly against the dusty stone. The others are trailing with you, quiet, no one really knowing what to say. You're not walking home. You're not heading to an inn. You're walking somewhere. Where exactly are we going? Someone finally asks. Out. Gethsemane, Jesus says. Just that. One word. Like it explains everything. You've heard of the place. A garden at the base of the Mount of Olives. Quiet. A bit wild. The kind of spot someone might go to get away from the world or hide from it. Tonight, it feels like both. You cross a narrow footbridge, and the city fades behind you. The buildings give way to trees. Olive branches stretch overhead, twisting like old hands, trying to pray. The moon is almost full. It lights the dirt path in a way that makes every shadow look too tall. You're starting to feel it now, that creeping edge of unease. Not panic, not yet. Just that sharp awareness that this night is thick, like the air has weight, like history is holding its breath. Jesus stops. This is the place, he says. You all gather around. Some sit, some stretch. Peter starts collecting sticks for a fire, then thinks better of it, and just puts them in a neat pile. It's the most orderly pile of sticks you've ever seen. Jesus steps a little farther away and turns back. Stay here, he says. Keep watch with me. Then he takes Peter, James, and John a few steps more. You stay behind with the rest. You sit on a rock, wrap your arms around your knees, and wait. So here's a little side fact. The word Gethsemane means oil press. Fitting, right? Because tonight, it's not just olives being crushed. Jesus is too. You watch from a distance as he kneels beneath a tree. His silhouette is thin against the moonlight. His head bows, then drops lower until his face touches the ground. He's praying, not softly, not like those peaceful prayers before a meal. This is different. This is the sound of someone wrestling with the universe. You see him shake, not dramatically, but enough. Like someone trying to hold back an earthquake with their bare hands. "Father," he says, barely audible,
You don't want to eavesdrop, but you can't help it.
"if it's possible, let this cup pass from me." The words slice through the dark, not just because of what he's saying, but because of who is saying it. Jesus, the calm one, the one who walked on water and made blind men see. He's asking if there's another way, but then he adds it. "Yet not what I will, but what you will." You close your eyes. You've heard that prayer before, but never like this. Time passes weirdly now. Your eyes are heavy. You're not sure if it's the wine, the walking, or just the weight of it all. The olive trees rustle. Somewhere an insect buzzes too loudly. Your head droops for a moment, and you wake to Jesus' voice. Couldn't you stay awake for even an hour? Oops. You look up startled. He's not mad, just tired. More tired than you've ever seen him. His eyes look like they're carrying centuries. He walks away again, prays again, deeper this time. You try. You really do. You sit up straighter, slap your cheeks, whisper, "Okay, I got this." But the next thing you know, darkness. You're dreaming of bread, or maybe you're still chewing that last bite from dinner. Then, his voice again, still sleeping. The hour has come. You jolt awake. Everyone else does too. Jesus is standing, still, calm, but behind him, torches are moving through the trees. A line of lights, coming fast. Soldiers. Here's something scholars debate. Did Jesus come to the garden to hide or to be found? He didn't run. He didn't fight. He walked right into this moment, like it was the reason he was born. Maybe it was. You rise to your feet, heart pounding. The torches get closer, and somewhere in the middle of that approaching crowd, you see him, Judas. He's leading them. He walks right up to Jesus. No hesitation, no flinch. He greets him with a kiss, a gesture of friendship, of loyalty. And Jesus, he doesn't move. "Friend," he says quietly, "do what you came to do." It's the calmest heartbreak you've ever heard. And then everything happens at once. The soldiers step forward. Peter draws a sword. Someone yells. A servant's ear gets sliced off. Yes, really. And Jesus, instead of running, tells Peter to stop. He touches the servant's wound, and it heals. Just like that. A miracle in the middle of betrayal. You stand frozen. You want to scream. You want to run. You want to do something. But you can't move. Because Jesus is letting them take him. And somehow, he looks ready. They bind his hands, turn him toward the path, start leading him away. He glances back once, just once. His eyes meet yours, and in that one look, there's no fear, no blame, just something that feels like, remember this. And then he's gone, taken into the night. You're still standing there. Not walking, not running, just standing. The moonlight hasn't moved, but everything else has. You hear rustling fig leaves in the dark, someone's sandal scraping the dirt. Peter's breathing is loud and sharp, like he just ran a mile and still isn't convinced he's awake. No one says anything. No one knows what to say. You've just watched your teacher, your friend, your everything, get led away in chains after being kissed by someone who used to be one of you. It's a betrayal so clean, so simple, it barely makes sense. Like someone blowing out a candle and calling it a storm. What now? Someone finally whispers. Peter straightens up like he's already got a plan. We follow him. You look around. You're not the only one who hesitates. Because this is dangerous now. Jesus wasn't just arrested. He was arrested publicly, like a criminal, like an example. You remember those Pharisees watching him earlier, the sharp robes, the sharper glares, and the way Jesus didn't flinch. You don't say it aloud, but the thought hisses inside your brain like a snake. What if we're next? Peter's already moving. You fall in step behind him, James and John close behind. The others? Some drift back, some vanish into the trees. You don't blame them. The city walls loom ahead. The soldiers are gone now, disappearing into the maze of alleys with their prize. You keep your head down as you walk. Try not to get noticed. Try not to think about what you'll do if someone recognizes you. You pass a woman sweeping her doorstep. A dog stirs from its sleep and lets out one indifferent bark. And then you're there, just outside the high priest's courtyard. Here's something you didn't expect. They're letting people in. Well, not everyone, but a small crowd has gathered onlookers, servants, a few nosy scholars pretending they're there by accident. Peter walks straight in, like he owns the place. You hang back, ducking behind a fig tree. Not because you're afraid, okay, maybe a little, but because your heart feels like it's trying to rewrite the plot in real time. You see a small fire burning in the courtyard. People are warming their hands. You spot Peter joining them. You creep in just far enough to watch, just far enough to hear. The night is getting colder. The fire crackles. Someone hands Peter a piece of bread, and he nods thanks. Then a servant girl walks up, young, probably no older than 15. She points at Peter, brow furrowed. You were with him, with Jesus. Your breath catches. Peter doesn't blink. I wasn't. He says it flat, plain, like he's commenting on the weather. You feel your stomach drop. One. A few minutes pass. Another voice speaks up. A man this time, a servant with ashes on his robe. You're one of them, aren't you? Peter's eyes flash. I'm not. Two. You inch a little farther back, behind a pillar, away from the firelight. Your hands are cold and clammy now. You want to call out, say, Peter, stop, but your voice won't work. And then the third time. But another servant, maybe even a relative of the guy whose ear got chopped off earlier, leans in close. Your accent Galilean. You're definitely one of them. Peter stands.
I don't know him.
The words fly like stones. And right then, a rooster crows. Loud, sharp, real. You feel it in your bones. So does Peter. He turns, slowly, eyes scanning the darkness. He doesn't see Jesus. He's already inside, probably in chains, facing a wall of robed accusers. But you know, Jesus heard it. Here's a curious note from the scholars. That rooster, it wasn't random. Many households near the temple kept roosters as early alarm calls for priests. So when that bird crowed, it wasn't just marking time. It was sounding a prophecy, a promise made, a denial delivered. Peter stumbles back from the fire, hands shaking, face pale. You watch him go out through the side gate, into the shadows, into whatever place you go when your heart breaks and your courage evaporates. You want to follow him, hug him, shake him, something, but instead, you sit by the wall, alone. Above, the stars blink like they're holding back tears. You lean your head back, close your eyes, and whisper nothing to the night, because nothing makes sense. And yet, you knew it would be like this. He told you. You just didn't want to believe it. And now it's happening. Morning creeps in without permission. It doesn't ask how you're feeling. Doesn't care that the city feels cracked in half. The sky turns from deep navy to bruised purple, then to a pale washed-out gold, the kind of gold that doesn't shine. It just reminds you how tired your eyes are. You haven't slept. You don't even remember sitting down. You're not sure you blinked since the rooster crowed. Somewhere behind those tall temple walls, Jesus is being judged. And you're out here pressed against cold stone, wondering how things unraveled so fast. 1 minute you were passing bread. Now you're afraid to be seen. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders. A vendor opens her stall across the street, rubbing sleep from her eyes like it's just another day. People begin to stir, fishermen hauling nets, kids chasing goats, a baker yelling something about hot loaves, 3 for a shekel. The city forgot what happened last night. Or maybe it never knew. But you remember, and so do the others, who begin trickling back one by one. John, Mary Magdalene. A few others, faces pale, eyes too wide. Someone whispers, "He's at Caiaphas' house now." Another adds, "They're moving him to Pilate." The name tastes bitter in your mouth, Pilate. Rome, no longer just a temple matter. This is official now, political, dangerous. You didn't think it would go this far. Quick fact break, because your brain needs to anchor to something. Pilate wasn't Jewish. He was Rome's guy, a governor, a bureaucrat with a sword. He didn't care about your festivals or your prophecies. He cared about order and taxes and not getting reported to Caesar. So if they're dragging Jesus in front of him, it's serious. You decide to follow, not openly, more like a shadow that hasn't had its coffee, through winding streets, past stone columns and fruit carts, toward the seat of Roman power, the Antonia fortress, the place with the guards, the whips, the loud voices that don't ask, they command. When you arrive, the crowd is already gathering. People whisper his name. Some shake their heads. Others smirk like this is entertainment. You spot the high priests, robes crisp, expressions unreadable. They look victorious. And there, in the center, hands bound and skin dusty from the walk, Jesus. He looks smaller, not weak, not defeated, just worn, dim, like someone who has carried too much silence. Pilate stands before him, arms crossed, brow furrowed. He looks like a man forced to attend a meeting he didn't schedule. You can almost hear him thinking, who even is this guy? Then comes the question, are you the king of the Jews? The whole place leans in. And Jesus, he doesn't defend. He doesn't plead. He says softly, you say so. Let's pause for a second. Because here's something fascinating. Most revolutionaries shouted. Jesus rarely raised his voice. While others rallied armies, he washed feet. While others plotted escape, he spoke of surrender. And here, in front of the empire's muscle, he speaks like someone not trying to win, but trying to wake something. Maybe in Pilate, maybe in you. Pilate looks unsettled. He paces. He argues with the priests. He listens to rumors about dreams and riots and some strange kingdom not of this world. He even tries to pawn the decision off, sends Jesus to Herod, hoping someone else will sign the papers. But Jesus comes back, bound, beaten, silent. Pilate sighs, like someone who's lost control of a very boring dinner party. He turns to the crowd. I find no fault in him. But the crowd's not here for innocence. They're here for blood. And when Pilate tries to offer them Barabbas, a known criminal, they shout his name like a celebrity. Barabbas! Release Barabbas. And you feel your stomach turn to ice. You realize this is really happening. He's not walking out. He's not slipping away to Galilee. He's not calming the storm with a word. Jesus is staying on purpose. Polite washes his hands. Literally. Basin, water, dry towel. I'm innocent, he says. But nobody is. Especially not you. Because you're standing there, watching. They take Jesus away. And this time, you don't follow. Not because you don't love him, but because your legs won't move. Because this feels like the end. And even though he said he'd rise again, you don't see how. You didn't expect the sun to rise today. Not like this. Not with this much shouting, hammering, marching. But it does. It rises on a city pretending nothing's wrong. And it shines down on a hill just outside the city gates, where everything is very, very wrong. You don't walk with the crowd this time. You trail behind them, slow and quiet, trying not to be noticed. There are soldiers ahead, jeering boys throwing pebbles from rooftops, a man hawking roasted nuts like it's a festival, and in the middle of it all, him, Jesus, carrying a beam of wood that looks far too heavy for one man. His steps are slow. His robe soaked in red and brown and dust. Every few feet, he stumbles. You flinch every time. But the soldiers just shout at him to get up. One finally grabs a man from the crowd, Simon of Cyrene, and shoves the beam onto his back instead. You've never been more grateful to a stranger. The walk feels endless. Not just in distance, but in how long it takes to believe this is real. This is really happening. He's really going to die. Not as a king, not on a throne, not in a blaze of glory, but like this, dragged, bleeding, abandoned. You pass a woman wailing into her veil. Another one tries to hand Jesus a cloth. He pauses, presses it to his face, and hands it back. She clutches it like treasure, like it's the only thing in the world that still makes sense. Here's something the historians still argue about. Why crucifixion? Why this method? Some say Rome wanted to make a point that this is what happens when you challenge them. Others say it was cheaper than a sword, more public than a cell. What's clear is, it was meant to humiliate, and it's working. The crowd that once shouted Hosanna, now they're mostly watching. Some are mocking, most are just quiet. Because this is hard to look at. You reach the hill, Golgotha, the place of the skull. Not a poetic name. It looks exactly how it sounds. The cross is laid on the ground. Jesus is placed on top of it. And you can't look away. The first nail, you hear it. Sharp, final. Like the sky itself flinched. You bite your fist. Someone beside you vomits. Another walks away, whispering, I can't. But you stay. Because if he can endure this, the least you can do is not look away. They raise the cross, drop it into a hole with a sickening thud. It stands tall against the sky like a question no one can answer. Two others are crucified beside him. One mocks him, the other asks to be remembered. Jesus turns his head barely and says, Today you'll be with me in paradise. Even now, he's still giving people hope. A sign hangs over him, King of the Jews. You wonder if it was meant to mock him, or if somehow it's still the truth. Hours pass. People come and go. Roman guards roll dice for his clothes. A group of women stands at a distance. Mary, his mother, is among them. She looks like a statue carved out of grief. John is there too. Jesus sees them and says softly, Woman, here is your son. Son, here is your mother. Even now, in pain, he's thinking of them, of you. Then comes the sky. At noon, when it should be brightest, everything darkens. Like the sun itself turns its face away. The wind picks up. The earth rumbles faintly beneath your feet, and from the cross you hear a cry. My God, why have you forsaken me? It slices through the air, not loud, not angry, just broken. Here's something you should know. That's a quote. Psalm 22. A cry of abandonment and, eventually, trust. He's not cursing God. He's clinging to him with his last breath. Then, at last, he whispers, "It is finished." And finally, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." He exhales and doesn't inhale again. You feel something collapse inside you. Not just grief, not just disbelief. Something big, like the curtain between heaven and earth, just tore straight down the middle. And maybe it did. The soldier closest to him drops his spear and murmurs, "Surely this man was the Son of God." You step back. The ground shifts. Your knees buckle. You don't cry yet. Not because you're strong, but because your body hasn't figured out how. You don't remember how long you stay there. Time becomes a fog. The sky slowly brightens again, but it's not the comforting kind of bright. It's harsh, exposing, like the world is trying to pretend nothing just happened. But you remember. Your legs are numb. Your throat is raw. You haven't spoken in hours. You're not sure you could if you tried. Most people have left. Some out of shame. Some out of boredom. A few just couldn't bear the weight of watching anymore. But you stay. You and a few others. A man named Joseph approaches the soldiers. He's wealthy, well-dressed, but humble in his voice. You recognize him. Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the council, but one of the few who believed in Jesus. He's asking for the body. So, that shocks you. No one does that. Usually the bodies of crucified men are left there to rot, to be pecked by birds. It's part of the punishment. But Joseph, he's different. He offers his own tomb, a new one, clean, unused. The soldiers shrug. Pilate allows it. And just like that, Jesus' lifeless body is lowered from the cross. You walk a little closer. Close enough to see the marks. The dried blood. The way his head leans gently to one side, as if even in death, he's listening. Nicodemus appears too, bringing spices and linen. Another secret believer. They work in quiet harmony, wrapping his body carefully, respectfully. It doesn't feel like a funeral. It feels like a surrender, but also a strange kind of honor, like they're wrapping not just a man, but a story. Here's something peculiar about burial in that time. Tombs weren't holes in the ground. They were carved into rock like little caves. A family might use the same one for generations, but Joseph gives his own. For Jesus alone, a new tomb, a new garden, the kind of resting place you'd expect for royalty. And somehow, it feels fitting. You follow from a distance. No one talks. The women are there too. Mary Magdalene, another Mary, and Joanna. They're watching every movement, memorizing the steps. You know why? Because after the Sabbath, they'll come back. They'll finish the burial the right way. They're not just followers. They're the first to plan an act of love after the world says love is over. The stone is rolled into place. It's huge, heavy, final. The sound it makes, you'll never forget it. A long, grinding scrape of stone against stone, like the closing of a door that was never meant to open again. Roman soldiers are stationed outside. Orders from Pilate, just in case. In case of what? You don't know, Nobody really thinks a dead man can cause problems, but they're guarding him anyway. You walk home slowly.
Your feet drag.
Your mind is a tangled mess of questions. Why did this happen? Why this way? Why didn't he stop it? You think about all the things he said that never made sense until now. The bread, the cup, the talk about being lifted up, about laying down his life, about a seed dying to bear fruit. You didn't understand it then. You're starting to now. But understanding doesn't make it hurt any less. Back at your lodging, you collapse onto your mat. Someone brings water. Someone else lights a lamp. But nobody really speaks. You lie awake, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind, and all you can think is, this wasn't how it was supposed to end. Here's something that sticks in your mind. He never looked surprised, even when they arrested him, even on the cross. It was like he knew how this would go, and chose it anyway. That night, you sleep for the first time in days. Not well, not peacefully, but enough. And somewhere in the edge of your dreams, you hear the echo of his voice. It is finished. And though you don't know what comes next, you feel faintly that maybe this isn't the end after all. The Sabbath begins like any other, slow, quiet, sacred, but this one feels heavier. There's no singing in the streets, no candles in the windows. Even the birds seem quieter, as if creation itself is mourning. You sit in silence with the others. No one talks about what happened, not because they've forgotten, but because no one wants to be the first to say it out loud. That Jesus is gone, that the one who fed crowds and walked on waves and looked you in the eye with more love than you could carry is now lying in a tomb behind a stone. You try to remember how to pray, but every word tastes hollow. Across town, the temple is busy. Sacrifices, rituals, incense, rising like nothing happened. You wonder, do they feel it too? That something shifted, that heaven cracked a little? Or are they just moving on? You wish you could. The women are already preparing. Mary Magdalene, especially. Eyes steady, movements precise. She doesn't cry, not now. She just gathers spices, wraps them, counts the cloth, plans the walk. She tells you quietly, we'll go after Sabbath ends, at sunrise. You nod, because what else can you do? You want to go with them, but you also know this is sacred work, the kind only the bravest ones do, the kind that requires showing up when hope has packed its bags and left. Here's a little-known fact about burial customs in first-century Judea. You didn't just bury someone and walk away. You returned, often, to finish what the rush of death didn't allow. You anointed. You mourned. You sat by the tomb. Death wasn't an interruption. It was a process, and love didn't stop at the grave. You glance out the window as the sun dips below the horizon. Sabbath has ended. Candles are lit. Soft prayers whispered. But none of it feels complete, because someone's missing. And the world knows it. That night, you toss in your bed. Every creak of the floorboards makes you flinch. Every dream is a question mark you can't answer. Was he really the one? Did we get it wrong? How can so much light vanish so fast? You try to remind yourself of what he said, that he'd rise again, that this wasn't the end. But your heart argues, then why does it feel like it is? Sometime before dawn, there's a stir, footsteps in the courtyard, whispers, cloaks pulled tight. You peek through the doorway and see the women moving. Like clockwork, like love dressed in walking shoes. They head toward the tomb, carrying spices. carrying grief, carrying the last thread of belief they have left. You wait. Minutes crawl. The sun begins to stretch across the rooftops. And then, running, you hear it before you see it. Sandals slapping stone, a voice yelling,
He's gone!
The door bursts open. Mary stands there, panting, eyes wild, hair loose. He's not there. The stone's moved. He's not in the tomb. Everyone freezes. No one knows what to say. Then Peter bolts out the door, like his sandals are on fire. John follows. You stare at Maryland. What do you mean, gone? She shakes her head, smiles, then tears up. I saw someone. He said my name. And it was him. It was him. You stumble outside, heart racing. Could it be? No, impossible. But what if? Here's something scholars still debate today. Did they believe immediately? Or did belief come in waves? Maybe both. Because sometimes the heart believes what the brain can't process. And sometimes a name spoken the right way is all it takes to raise the dead inside you. You stand in the street. The sun is rising. And for the first time in 3 days, it feels warm. You close your eyes and whisper his name. It's been hours, maybe more. Time has turned soft, like bread left too long in the sun. You've stopped trying to track it. What matters is this: the tomb is empty. And that truth sits in your chest like a fire that hasn't decided if it wants to comfort you or burn everything down. Peter hasn't said much since he came back. He's pale, sweating, breathless. He's not there. He keeps repeating, I saw the linen just lying there. John, younger and faster, adds, the cloth was folded neatly. You blink. What? The one that covered his face, John says, eyes wide. It was placed, not thrown, not dropped. Placed. It's such a small detail, but somehow it breaks something open inside you, because that's not what panic looks like. That's not what grave robbers do. That's someone who had time, who left intentionally, who wanted you to notice. Here's a small tradition from ancient times. A folded napkin meant, I'm not done. In some households, especially among the wealthy, if someone folded their cloth at dinner, it signaled to the servant, don't clear my plate, I'm coming back. So now you're wondering, was that napkin folded just for them, or also for you? The room is buzzing now. Half the group is whispering theories. The other half is praying, or pacing, or weeping from confusion. And then a knock. You all freeze. It's not a guard, not a mob. It's Cleopas. And someone else. You don't recognize him at first. Then you realize he was one of the ones who left. Cleopas is grinning. His hair's a mess. His sandals are caked in dust. We saw him. The room stills. On the road to Emmaus. We were just walking, talking about everything, and he joined us. Like it was normal. We didn't even realize. Not until he broke the bread. The other man says. And then, poof, gone. Just like that. You want to believe them. You do. But your head is doing that thing again, folding in on itself like a napkin with no owner. What does this even mean? Alive. Here. Now. If this is true, then everything changes. Suddenly, someone gasps. You look up, and there in the middle of the room, he's standing. Jesus. No door opened. No footsteps. He's just there. Peace be with you, he says. You nearly collapse. A few actually do. You think you're seeing a ghost. It would explain a lot. But then he holds out his hands, shows you the scars. His voice is warm, steady. Touch me. A ghost doesn't have flesh and bones like I do. And slowly, as if moving through water, you step forward, fingers trembling, and you touch him. He smiles. Do you have anything to eat? John hands him a piece of fish, still warm from the fire. Jesus takes it, eats, real, alive, hungry, like everything you believed was ending is only now beginning. Here's something historians can't quite explain. Why didn't they recognize him right away? Some say grief clouded their vision. Others think he appeared changed, glorified. Or maybe he didn't let them recognize him until the moment was right. Either way, one thing is clear. He meets people where they are, on the road, in locked rooms, in doubt, in fear, even in failure. You sit down slowly. Your legs are shaking. Your hands too. But your heart is thundering. Not from fear, from hope. He's alive. He's here. And he's not done. You're still not sure how long he stayed. It felt like hours, or maybe minutes. Time stopped behaving the moment he walked through the walls without bothering to open the door. But however long it was, you remember every second. The way his voice settled over the room like warm honey. The way his eyes found yours. Not accusing, not disappointed, just kind. Like he knew everything you were feeling and didn't flinch. He talked a lot. More than usual, maybe, but not in parables this time. No riddles. No mustard seeds. No fig tree metaphors. Just him, sitting there, calmly untying centuries of confusion. He opened the scriptures, really opened them. Like all the stories you grew up with suddenly had color. Abraham, Moses, David, the suffering servant, the broken bread. It all pointed here, to him. And you just sitting there, jaw slightly open, thinking, wait, it was always him. He said something you can't forget. Everything written about me had to be fulfilled. You nodded like you understood, but you didn't. Not yet. Still, something inside you, something quiet and cautious, began to believe again. Then he said something stranger. As the Father sent me, I'm sending you. Wait, you. You glance around. Surely he's talking to someone else. Someone qualified. But nope. He's looking right at you. You, the one who ran when the guards came. You, who didn't speak up when Peter denied him. You, who just spent the last 2 days curled up in a knot of grief and confusion. You're being sent. And then, without warning, he breathes on you. Literally, breaths, like wind before a storm. And he says, receive the Holy Spirit. You don't feel different, not yet. But the air suddenly smells like rain, like something growing you can't see yet. Like this story has chapters you haven't read. Here's a fun historical footnote. The word for spirit in Hebrew, ruach. It means spirit, breath, and wind all at once. So when he breathes on you, he's not just giving you air, he's giving you power, purpose, presence. But not everyone was there. Thomas wasn't. Classic Thomas, always missing the good parts. When he finally shows up, you all rush him. Jesus was here. He ate fish. He breathed on us. And Thomas, he does what Thomas does. He squints, crosses his arms, and says, unless I see the marks, I won't believe it. You don't blame him. It's a lot. Dead people aren't supposed to show up for dinner. But still, part of you wants to shake him. Wants him to see what you saw. Feel what you felt. Because once you've seen it, once he has looked at you, you're not the same. 8 days pass. You try not to count them. Try not to stare at the door. But on the 8th day, you're all back in that room again. Same walls. Same quiet waiting. And then again, Jesus appears. No knock. No creaking hinges. Just him. Peace be with you, he says. Then he turns, right to Thomas. He holds out his hand. Go ahead. Thomas swallows hard, reaches out, and touches the scar. You think he might pass out, but instead, he whispers, voice trembling, "My Lord and my God." Jesus smiles, not smug, just warm.
Because you've seen me, you believe.
Blessed are those who haven't seen and still do. You glance at the others. No one moves. Because that blessing, it's not for you. It's for them. The ones who will hear this story, who won't get the fish, the fire, the folded cloth, but will believe anyway. You sit down, overwhelmed, because suddenly you realize this isn't just your story anymore. It's theirs. And now you have to tell it. You're not sure when the fear finally leaves the room. It doesn't vanish all at once. It fades, like the chill after sunrise, like the last notes of a song that's been playing in your bones for days. But one morning, you wake up and you're not afraid. You're not confused. You're not checking the door. You're not bracing for a knock or a cross or a sword. You're just ready. There's talk of Galilee now. He told you to meet him there, remember? You almost forgot. Not because it wasn't important, just because everything else felt too big to think past. But now the idea feels right. To go back to where it all began. To the hills. To the lakeside. To the place where you first heard him say, "Follow me." So you go. The road is long, but familiar. You pass fig trees that were in bloom that first spring. You walk by the bend in the river where Peter nearly fell in, that one time, and every footstep feels like you're turning the pages of your own memory, back to the place where it started, and maybe the place where it restarts. You reach the Sea of Galilee by morning. The water's still, not stormy, not miraculous, just still. A few boats bob gently near the shore. Peter's already got a net in hand. "Guess we're fishing," he says, smiling. It's almost funny. After everything, you're fishing. Not preaching, not healing, not multiplying bread, just fishing. Like nothing happened, like everything happened. And here's the beautiful irony. You catch nothing, not a single fish. All night, Peter blames the tide. You blame the moon. Thomas blames the net. And then, a voice from the shore. "Friends, did you catch anything?" You shade your eyes. It's a man, standing beside a small fire, hands cupped around his mouth. "No," Peter shouts back. "Throw your net on the right side," the man says. "You'll find some there." You all look at each other. Peter shrugs. Why not? You throw the net. And suddenly, it's full. So full, you can't lift it. You freeze. Because you've seen this before. This exact moment. Back when you first met him. Back when you were just fishermen. Back when he called you by name. And before anyone else can say it, John whispers, "It's the Lord." Peter doesn't wait. He grabs his cloak, leaps into the water, and swims. Swims like the boat's on fire. You just laugh. Because of course he does. By the time the boat reaches shore, Jesus already has fish on the fire. "Bring some of yours too," he says. So you do. And then he serves you breakfast. Let that sink in. The risen King of the universe cooks you fish and bread, You sit by the fire, not talking much. Because what do you even say? He died. He rose. He's here. And now you're eating tilapia like it's just another Thursday. But somehow, this feels holy. More than the temple. More than the miracles. This simple moment, with warmth, with food, with friends, feels like heaven already started. Here's something worth knowing. In Jewish tradition, meals matter. They weren't just about food. They were where covenants were sealed, where families reconnected, where forgiveness passed hands silently between bites. So when Jesus serves you breakfast, he's doing more than feeding you.
He's reinstating you.
He's saying, you're still mine. I still love you. And we still have work to do. After the meal, Jesus pulls Peter aside. You don't hear the whole conversation, but you catch enough. Do you love me? Lord, you know I do. Then feed my sheep. 3 times, he asks. 3 times, Peter says yes. And it's no coincidence. Peter denied him 3 times. So Jesus gives him 3 chances to come back. That's just how he works. You walk along the shore later, shoes in hand, waves licking your toes. Jesus walks with you for a bit. He doesn't say much. Doesn't need to. Just being near him feels like the world is being rewritten. Gently, patiently, in your direction. Before he leaves, he says one last thing. Follow me. Same words he said the first time, but now they hit different. Because you know what they mean. You've lived them. You've failed under them. And now you're ready to carry them again. You return to Jerusalem. Eventually. Not because it's safe. Not because you want to. But because he said to. He told you to wait. Not forever. Just for something. Something he called power from on high. You don't really know what that means. But when the risen Jesus asks you to do something, you do it. Even if your knees are still recovering from Galilee. Even if your sandals smell like fish. Even if your heart is still trying to catch up with your hope. Back in the city, the upper room feels different. It used to feel like hiding. Now, it feels like preparation. The windows are cracked open. The fear has mostly left. There's laughter now. Small stories traded over bread. Little moments of joy. In between. Waiting for, well, whatever's next. And then one morning, he shows up again. No announcement. No trumpet. Just that quiet presence that turns every head. He walks into the room like he never left. He tells you to meet him on the Mount of Olives. That same hill you last saw him descend from, on a donkey, palm branches beneath his feet. You all go, of course. He stands with you there. Same view. Same dusty sky. Same you. But this time, something's different. This is goodbye. He smiles. Looks at each of you like he's memorizing your face one last time. Then he says, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses to Jerusalem, to Judea, to Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. You nod as if you understand. You don't, not fully, but you feel it in your bones. Something big is coming, something you won't control, can't manufacture, but will carry you farther than your feet could ever go alone. And then he lifts his hands, blesses you, and slowly he begins to rise. No, not metaphorically. Actually, literally, up, like a leaf caught in a silent wind. You don't know what to do, so you just stare. Because what else do you do when your friend floats into heaven like it's the most natural thing in the world? He disappears into a cloud, and you're left standing there, mouths open, eyes wide. Someone coughs. You hear a bird, your knees wobble, and then 2 men in white robes appear beside you and say, "Why are you looking up? He'll come back, just as you saw him go." You walk back to the city slowly, quietly, filled with more awe than words. Here's something wild. You're not sad. You thought you would be. You thought you'd cry, collapse, panic. But instead, you're joyful. Not because he's gone, but because now you know he was never staying in just one place. You gather again in the upper room, not to hide, not to fear, but to wait. And while you wait, you begin to pray together. One day, soon, the wind will come, the tongues of fire, the boldness, the miracles. But for now, it's still.
You close your eyes.
And you rest in the truth that the story isn't over, not even close. And now, as the story settles, so can you. The room around you fades to quiet, the light dims. Your breath slows like waves returning to the shore. You've walked through betrayal and sorrow, followed footsteps through gardens and firelit rooms, stood beneath a cross, and now you've seen the sky open. The story doesn't end at the tomb or even in the clouds. It's a river that keeps flowing, just like your heartbeat, now steady, soft. So, let go of the weight in your chest. Let the whisper of hope curl around your shoulders, like a warm blanket. You're safe here. You are known. You are remembered. And just like that folded cloth in the tomb, you are not forgotten. Close your eyes and let grace carry you the rest of the way.